Hi there, Magandang people. This is your local host, Mr. Nacho. I'm back again with a new amazing vlog that has basically the cover topic that has the name Saan Ka Man Naroroon. There's a little pre-story about this fantastic teleserie. First, before this fantastic teleserie, there was the show Mula sa Puso, which already was an totally chart-topping show, teleserie. It was really amazing. Already I found myself when I watched that, wow, they go to the extreme. It is so emotional, it's so tense, it's so amazing, but unfortunately it's also finished. But that is not our topic today. That is unfinished on JeepneyTV. We go straight to some JeepneyTV gave us some other show. The predecessor show? No, it's not the predecessor show. He gave us the show after Mula sa Puso, and that is called Saan Ka Man Naroroon. And this show is actually even more amazing than Mula sa Puso, because in many ways it looks like the makers of this show thought to themselves, why don't we on Mula sa Puso we only had basically one contrabeater, and that was played by Princess Punsalan. Basically, it was Selina. But what happened here in this great Saan Ka Man Naroroon? It happened that they had the idea, the makers of this show, that why don't we throw more contrabeater in this show at the viewer than ever? And that was basically one of the most interesting things about this show, basically, because first you start here with, in the beginning, you had here the sister of lead character Dolores, which is called, what was her name? I forgot already. No, doesn't matter. I will find Violetta. Now I got it. Her name was Violetta, played by Miss Jackie Lou Blanco, and there you already find out, wow, she desires the husband of Dolores, basically. She is basically in the first scenes you already see, oh, she's a contrabeater for that, but it goes on and on. What you also see in the later part of this show, basically, is that she somehow is siding with the three daughters, basically, of Dolores. But yeah, I must start from the beginning, basically. The show starts with that you have here Dolores and her Asava, Juancho, who have basically these three triplet children. Basically, it is Rosenda, Rosario, and Rosemary. And yes, something happens from the start. There is something fascinating happening, because the doctor, basically, who is making sure that these children are delivered, he basically, and that is only later revealed, he basically loves Dolores, and just thinks to himself, I take this one child for myself. The child is called Rosemary, so he's not telling Dolores that he just took a child. So I think, as far as I remember, is only something said that the child has died, if I remember correctly. And basically, yeah, that's it, basically. So it looks like there are only two children, only something like it is twins, but in fact, you know, there are actually three children. And basically, yeah, he's raising on his own the third daughter called Rosemary, and nobody there from the familia of Dolores and Juancho has any idea about it. Yeah, that's the first cliffhanger. But yeah, what happens then in later seasons basically is that somehow the twins are basically at this time twins of Rosenda and Rosario are basically drifting apart, basically, because somehow there is some kind of early cliffhanger at some kind of cliff, basically, where you have here the big revelation basically is you got Violetta, the first contrabeater there, who somehow is failing to save Rosario, who is almost about to fall from that cliff. And that basically is also looks like no, I'm wrong. It is actually both twins at that time. Rosenda and Rosario are in danger of falling off the cliff, but Violetta, the first contrabida, Bye of this great teleserie, basically, she decides only to save Rosenda, which was basically her, at that time, her favorito child. She was favoring Rosenda. So that's the one that she has basically saved, and that is where basically the first major drifting apart was of Rosario, who basically was falling into that ocean or river, and then drifts apart, but somehow survives and is drifting apart very, very, very far away, and then is basically rescued by the friendly couple that does not have any anak. Oh my goodness! Now to remember all of these character names is interesting. All I remember, it was Caridad Sanchez and her Asava, who was rescuing that child and raised Rosario on their own, grew fond of her. Yeah, and then only in later seasons, basically, when she became some kind of local musical heroine, then she somehow they came back together. Yeah, but did you know this whole to explain the whole series, is actually a little bit dramatic, because it is so much topic that you can do. So I want to make it a little bit shorter on this first vlog that I'm doing for you. Basically, what is the fact here in the nutshell is basically the sisters are very often reunited and sometimes on their own, and that is one of the most interesting aspects of this teleserie, basically, because you always have some situations where there's some kind of fever for you as the viewer, where you think to yourself, wow, maybe soon they're reunited. And indeed, the next reunion, as far as I know, was basically the first reunion was, as far as I remember, in a hospital. The first real reunion was Rosemary and Rosario. That was the first real reunion. And at the same time, must come back to the great topic of this show. Basically had the idea that they throw more contrabida at you than you might ever think is possible to have in a show. And what is the most interesting aspects here is this, with this contrabida, is basically first you had this Violetta, who made it sure that she is in love with the Asava of her own sister, of her own arte. That already is shocking. Then you got as the next contrabida, basically Rosenda becomes a major contrabida, always scheming things, planning things. Also, she had sometimes it looks almost like she had good reasons, because she was always zealous, because she always thought that she is overlooked, that her parents, Dolores and Juancho, that they always favor Rosario over her, that she is basically the favorito child, and because of that she felt neglected. That's why Rosenda had to scheme a lot to make sure that she will become the favorito child instead. So yeah, then around I think it was around episode 89, they got a new major character on board, which was basically you know her from Mara Clara. It was Gladys Reyes with her great contrabida character, who had the name Melissa. And at first she started very quiet, and you might think, oh, she's a very nice character, she's so something like a nice one, no? So likable, compared to her other roles there as Clara and Mara Clara. But very soon you find out she's a major contrabida who is actually doing a lot of manipulating around the show, and that is actually one of her best roles so far of Gladys, Miss Gladys Reyes. And when you think about this, she becomes better and better and better, and it's going non-stop higher and higher. She's always topping herself in contrabeating, as I might say so. Now, but there are more contrabeaters in the show. There's also some kind of Sellers Baba in the beginning, or something like what you call this? Yeah, basically something like a challenger of Rosario. Basically, Rosario starts there in some kind of music club, and the owner, played by Rustam Padilla, basically he totally falls for her. But that is actually totally making the Babai that likes him, I think, I thought her name was Clarissa, if I remember correctly. Clarissa totally sells to the Supermax, and in the beginning the character Clarissa basically is super galit at Rosario and becomes basically also one of the early contrabeaters. But what is interesting that after quite some time already, she's super contrabeater, always fighting Rosario to the max, tries to do everything against her. But in the future, she's actually changing her. That is actually also a very interesting thing about the show, that the show always gives you some changes, that later she changes her opinion and is actually more helpful to Rosario, which is also, nice cliffhangers always. Nice ups and downs, sometimes suppressor. Very interesting, basically. And but it's not stopping there. Another interesting woman that starts in the show, which is a major contributor, is the arrival of Miss Isabel Rivas, which is called Marilu in this great show. And she is, it turns out she arrives on the scene because it is the Mr. Dita Ocampo, actually, which I did not talk about yet. He is something like a childhood friend there of the character of Rosario, who was rescued by Caridad Sanchez. And basically he always loves her since childhood. And what comes out of this is basically his father he's estranged with his father. He's basically raised by his nana, which is played by the amazing Susan Africa, and great actress. I could make a vlog only about this actress alone, but we don't have that much time. And what happens for this contravira Isabel Rivas to arrive on the scene is that that the character of Dita Ocampo here is called Bart, and somehow he is finding a way back with his estranged Tatai, which is called Domeng, played by oh my goodness, he is Amante in Mara Clara, he is Don Fernando in Mula Sapuso, but right now I don't know his name. Ha 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 ha. So why do I have forgotten his name? You know who he is. My goodness. Just have forgotten it because you know this is just a plot that I plot as I do in one go, Dipper. He has no cuts, as you see. Why should I cut? This is more realistic if I don't cut this vlog. So I not just ramble on, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't like it. Let's just see where it leads us. Basically, my goodness, why have I forgotten this name of this great actor? You know who he is, my goodness. I will write it down later when I edit this vlog. Basically, so Bart is meeting his father since the first time a little bit, and that is bringing him into rather unwanted contact with his new wife, which is played by Isabel Rivas. And it is hate at first sight. Isabel Rivas sees basically Bart and his nanai. It is hate at first sight. She's totally contravening to the max to them. And that, of course, generates also Rosario, who is, of course, defending Susan Africa and Bart to the max, and she comes into a strong fight with Marilu, played by Isabel Rivas, and those fights are strong, which causes Isabel Rivas to really see her as a major threat, as a major enemy. And what happens next is basically that she makes Rosario's life hell, as if she is kidnapping her, puts her into her own bordello, and she has really hell at that time going on, and nobody knows where she is, even though Bart and Rustam Padilla's character try to locate her. It is very, very hard for them to locate her. And what I'm trying to say is, what is very interesting about the character of Marilu is that she is more an evil person, but at the same time, what I find very fascinating about her, she is very evil. You should not, if you are a decent person, you should not feel for an evil contrabida, but somehow that Baba somehow is, I don't know why, you are drawn to her. Maybe she is a little bit sexy, I don't know what it is. Maybe sometimes there's some evil person that can be sexy at the same time. To me, Isabel Rivas obviously is exactly that thing in the series. I always look at her and say, wow, she's so evil, but at the same time she is so sexy, it's crazy. Why do I feel for her? Terrible. I must not feel for her, I must rather feel for characters like that are played from Miss Claudine Barretto, because these characters actually are more better, especially since you know that in the future of the series, even Rosenda, who was at first, in the first 250 episodes or 300 episodes, she was a major contrabida, not so likable, but then later she became more and more likable. Do we have more contrabidas? You bet we have, but I think, what are the other contrabidas? Right now I have forgotten our contrabidas. But look, we have already a lot of contrabidas. You have their Violetta, then you have their Clarissa, who then later became no contrabida. Then you had Rosenda contrabida. Then you had their Isabel Rivas as Marilu as a contrabida. Then you even had what else there? My God, there were more contrabidas. I have forgotten where are those contrabidas? That is a good question. I'm absolutely sure there was more contrabidas. But I don't want to ramble on too long to you. Maybe I can make another vlog about this. But you see already, this teleserye, Saan Ka Man Naroroon, is actually super powerful in many ways, because what they're also doing there is, which is really amazing about the show, is that the love teams are always somehow separated. So a good example about that is this. At first it looks like the first love team basically is only Bart, played by Dita Ocampo, and Rosario, and it also looks like Rosario's feelings for him, but she never really 100% says that is deep love also. It looks almost like it's only friendship. And then it is shifting a little bit around. There comes a time when suddenly Rico Jan's character, called Danielle in the show, is totally falling for Rosario, because actually he admired her even before she, when they were children. He admired her before she fell down the cliff, and then they became very close, which was of course fascinating, not really great for Bart, because he was suffering a lot from this, even though at the same time he was Daniel was his friend basically at the time. He could have been more violent against Rico Jan, but obviously he was only suffering. And at the same time, then you got basically Rosario telling to Bart, who basically was always admired by her sister Rosenda, who basically, it's almost like she instructed Bart, if you love me, then you must be together with my sister. So already some kind of major interesting plot that you got there, and of course he's somehow unhappy, but at the same time, is it really working, that relationship? Not really so much, because looks almost like it is like in Mula sa Puso. If you remember Mula sa Puso, it was also something like there Dita had this relationship with Rica Peralejo, and also it did not really work at all, because he was marrying her there only because his Nanai wanted that. There was no love attached. So that is basically here the same. So there are some kind of parallels here, of course, in this show between Mula sa Puso and Saan Ka Man Naroroon, that also make it very interesting. But then also in the what is also very shortly, not so long obviously, the relationship between Rico Jan's character and Rosario is also put to the test when she became a major star, and suddenly the press was very intimidating to him. Something like was even ridiculing him when they found out that he's only a waiter, but then Rosario is already this major star, and then came basically this question from the press to Rosario, something like if there's anything going on with this guy called Daniel who's a waiter, and then she denied him, and that really broke his heart. She really says, no, I have no relationship with this waiter called Daniel, and that totally broke his heart to the max. And yeah, then they were separating again, but of course somehow through some circumstances they saw each other again. And what I already know in the future is what is very clear: they are separating again. So does this indicate that Bart and Rosario will come together in the future? I do not know this. I have no idea, because I have not watched this show to the finish. And even at this final, there are somewhere on YouTube some kind of final casal scenes. To me, the sisters look all the same. I don't know who is who. I cannot see this. I'm confused. Who is who there? The only people that I can recognize are the three suitors, or the three grooms of the brides. Those I can see, of course. It is Dita Ocampo, Leandro Munoz, and Rico Jan. Those I can easily see. But who are those sisters there? Hard for me to tell. Yeah, so in a nutshell, this is maybe now a very long vlog, I can tell that by my rambling. But I hope you are very intrigued by my rambling, as I am intrigued by this beautifully, very interesting, very powerful teleserye called Saan Ka Man Naroroon. And yeah, one thing that I can say in close is you must really see Claudine Barretto here in this show. Maybe lots of people are just watching this show and just take it as granted. You must also see behind this show. There's no doubt about this, that Miss Claudine Barretto had a lot of pressure there in this show. Playing 3 characters on this show is definitely a high pressure. You must look at this. Every other character in this show only has or every actor in this show besides Claudine has only 1 character that they play. So it's mostly like this. They go on the set, they perform the scene, and then the director says, great take, you can go home now. We see you bujas again, and then for your next scenes. With Claudine, it was not like that. With Claudine, it was totally different. Something like, just imagine, Claudine just has finished the scene of Rosenda, for instance. And then director says, great, Claudine, you did a great job. And then maybe Claudine just wants to go home, and they said, oh, wait, Claudine, you are not supposed to leave. We now need to have your scene as Rosemary. So basically, this is what you must understand as a viewer. There was a lot of pressure on Claudine. She was just finishing Rosenda, then suddenly she needs to do Rosemary. And of course, when she finished Rosemary, then the director maybe said something when she wanted to rest or so. She said, no, so sorry, Claudine. We now need your scene as Rosario. So you are realizing something, you are getting the picture. This was definitely a lot of stress for Claudine. Yes, she was young at the time, around 19 years old or 20 years old, but it was definitely a lot of pressure for her. So any person who loves the show should be aware that she did a great job in this, Claudine, and there was definitely lots of pressure on her. And you must also not forget this: as an actor, the shoots are sometimes very long. Sometimes when an actor is only doing one character, it could be something like 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours shooting days. I even heard about 14 hours shooting days. And now you must make a triple that with 3 characters, 3 triplets basically. So there's basically a lot of work. My goodness. So you see, this is one very long vlog now. I only wanted you to know this was a lot of pressure that Miss Claudine Barretto had, so that you understand. You must even value her acting even more when you see this kind of pressure. Okay, yeah, but should I do another vlog about Saan Ka Man Naroroon? I think so, because I think there are more interesting facts about this great series that I maybe have forgotten yet, because it's so complex, it's so long. So I think it's the best to leave you now. So it would be great if you could, because I want to do more vlogs like this, if you could subscribe to me and hit the notification bell. That would be great. And I want to see you again. Please come back again, and I want to do another great vlog like this. And then see you again, Matlang people. See you again, Magandang people. See you soon! Yeah!